Why is it always the powerless who bleed for the power-hungry? Russia invades Ukraine, Israel bombs Gaza, Iran retaliates, India and Pakistan throw nuclear shade like it's a neighborhood squabble. But behind every headline and every official statement, guess who ends up buried? Not the generals, not the oligarchs. It's the broke, the voiceless, the forgotten. And the worst part? We eat it up. We pick sides like it's a World Cup match, wave flags, post hashtags, and then what? Back to brunch? Let me break it to you. You're not free, you're not informed, you're a spectator in a blood-splattered circus run by clowns with warheads. And the animals in Animal Farm? They're you, they're me, they're every poor soul who ever believed the lie that we're all in this together. Spoiler, we're not. An Animal Farm isn't some cute parable about pigs and politics, it's a blueprint for how your freedoms get stolen in broad daylight while you're clapping. Today we're diving into Animal Farm by George Orwell, a deceptively simple story about talking animals that, spoiler alert, is not for children. This book is a brutal roast of totalitarian regimes, a manifesto against blind obedience, and a disturbing mirror of modern society. But before we go any further, disclaimer, this video falls under the Fair Use Act. It is for educational purposes, adding transformative commentary, criticism, and context. We're not just summarizing, we're pulling the pin on this ideological grenade and tossing it into the boardrooms, classrooms, and TikTok scroll holes of your life. Now, about the author. George Orwell, real name Eric Arthur Blair, wasn't just a writer. He was a fighter, a rebel, a man who literally took bullets for his beliefs in the Spanish Civil War. He knew tyranny up close and personal, and Animal Farm was his savage little fable warning the world. Power corrupts. Absolute power? That crap will eat your soul. Orwell wasn't subtle. He didn't write Animal Farm to entertain you. He wrote it to stab you awake. Welcome to Mindful Reads Hub. Let's get started. Revolt and reckoning. What's more dangerous than a lie? A dream. Especially a dream that sounds just true enough to make you give up your life for it. Old Major wasn't just a pig. He was a prophet with dentures and a death wish. He gathered the animals like some barnyard messiah and said what every slave secretly knows but never dares say. We're all being screwed and not even getting dinner for it. Jones, the drunken farmer, was the stand-in for every system that has ever milked you, starved you, and then blamed you for not being productive enough. And when Old Major said rebellion, the barn didn't just shake, it cracked open a reality that hits way too close to home today. Think about it. How is Russia any different from Jones, bombing Ukraine and calling it liberation? How is Iran not the ideological barn boss whipping the populace into obedience while missiles fly toward Tel Aviv? And how are you not one of those sheep in the back, nodding along, thinking that liking a post is activism? Wake up! Because on Orwell's farm, just like in our modern world, revolution starts with the hope of freedom, but almost always ends in the rebranding of control. Major dies 3 nights later. Gone like every revolutionary voice once the movement is popular enough to be profitable. And in comes the vacuum, the kind that sucks hope right out of the air. Here's where the pigs, yes, actual pigs, take over the organizing. But let's not be cute about it. Napoleon, Snowball, and Squealer aren't just pigs. They're politicians in muddy skin, smooth-talking autocrats in training. You know how every movement starts with posters and slogans and hope? That's Snowball. You know how it ends with someone controlling the food supply? That's Napoleon. And Squealer, he's your PR team. He's the guy spinning genocide into strategic defense. What they're building isn't freedom, it's ideology. And they even give it a name, animalism, which is just communism with cud. They spend 3 months dumbing it down into something the sheep can chant, and when the revolution finally kicks off, when Jones forgets to feed them and they riot, it's chaos, sure, but it's organized chaos. No hashtags, no protests, just a boot to the face of authority, hoof by hoof. The animals overthrow Jones. He stumbles out the door with his wife, his whiskey, and the news of the world literally covering his face. How poetic is that? And suddenly, the animals stand on land they own. No master, no man, just them and the open field. For 5 minutes, it's utopia. And that's exactly when things start to rot. Snowball paints over Manor Farm and renames it Animal Farm like it's a goddamn IPO. They write the 7 commandments on the barn wall, and sure, they sound noble. Whatever walks on 2 legs is an enemy. No animal shall kill another. All animals are equal. You know, the usual startup dream team manifesto. Flat hierarchies, shared responsibility, open communication. But spoiler alert, equality without checks and balances is just tyranny with better PR. Then the pigs start pulling rank. They milk the cows, take the milk, and when someone asks, what's gonna happen to all that milk? The answer is silence. The next day, it's gone, into the pigs' troughs. This is the moment, the exact moment, when the revolution begins to betray itself. But no one says anything. Why? Because Jones might come back. And that is the oldest manipulation trick in the authoritarian playbook. Weaponize fear of the past to secure obedience in the present. It's how Israel justifies surveillance. It's how Russia justifies martial law. It's how every government justifies restricting your rights. Do you really want the other guy in charge? So the animals stay quiet. They start their harvest. They believe the pigs when they say it's for the greater good. They believe that their sacrifice will pay off, just like you believe your taxes go to infrastructure instead of bombs. One more thing, Beasts of England. That song? It's not a lullaby, it's a warning. It's the sound of people or animals clinging to a future they'll never live to see. And it spreads. Not because it's catchy, but because it's contagious, just like real revolution always is. And that's what makes this whole section so brutally honest. Revolutions don't fail at the end. They fail the moment they start believing their own myths, when dreamers become managers, when freedom becomes brand strategy, when pigs take the milk and everyone pretends not to notice because the anthem still slaps. Key takeaway, uprisings are easy. Sustaining justice, that's where the lies begin. The biggest threat to freedom isn't your enemy, it's your savior once they start drinking the milk. Favorite quote, all men are enemies, all animals are comrades. Too bad no one told the pigs. Utopia's cracks. You ever noticed how fast a revolution goes from power to the people to please clap for your overlord? Animal Farm isn't just a satire, it's a damn prophecy. And we are living in it, again and again. The pigs took over with promises of equality, justice, and shared work. And for a moment, just a flicker in time, it actually looked like the dream might work. The harvest was the best they'd ever seen. No whips, no humans barking orders, just animals, finally doing it for themselves. Sounds like post-revolution euphoria, doesn't it? That sweet fleeting honeymoon phase right after the dictator flees and before the next one changes the locks. Like when Ukraine booted Russian influence in 2014 and for a second the world said, maybe, just maybe. But here we are again. War, occupation, proxy battles, and just like the animals on the farm, people are still being used as pawns in somebody else's chess game. Always with the illusion of control, never with the power. Back to the barn, the pigs, oh, they were suddenly managing. You know what that means, not working, just organizing, delegating, contributing intellectually. The pigs were now the board of directors, and everyone else was the damn workforce. Boxer, the horse, guy works harder than a Red Cross volunteer during a war crime. His motto, I will work harder. That's not noble, that's tragic. That's every underpaid teacher, exhausted nurse, and overworked migrant who still believes their loyalty will earn them respect. It doesn't. Squealer, the spin doctor porkchop, starts laying the groundwork for inequality in the name of health. Milk and apples for the pigs, he says, because they're the thinkers. That's like Congress giving themselves raises while telling you inflation is your fault for buying eggs. He even pulls the ultimate manipulative card. Do you want Jones to come back? That right there is how fear gets weaponized. You don't need barbed wire when people have trauma and a false memory of hell to keep them in line. But here's the twist. The animals still believe. The sheep bleat, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, like they're NPCs at a political rally. And that's no accident. That's what happens when a population stops thinking and starts chanting. That's what happens when ideology becomes religion and slogans replace critical thought. Just like how political parties today don't offer nuance, they give you hashtags and a team jersey. Wear red, wear blue, pick a side, shut your mouth. Meanwhile, the farm becomes a meme. Pigeons are flying out teaching other animals the song Beasts of England. It's gone viral, but instead of bringing solidarity, it brings fear. Neighboring farmers, terrified their own livestock might catch revolutionary ideas, spread lies. Animal Farm is full of cannibal pigs and red-hot horseshoes. That's modern disinformation 101. Undermine the uprising with fake news, then pretend you're saving civilization. And then comes the counterstrike. Jones returns, not alone, armed with other farmers, pitchforks, guns, a classic freedom-restoring operation. Basically, Western intervention with better tailcoats. But the animals are ready. Snowball studied battle tactics like some furry little Napoleon Bonaparte. He even shouts orders mid-battle, covered in blood like a furry warlord. And they win. They actually drive the humans off again. Celebration, singing, they give medals, build myths. Snowball and Boxer are now animal heroes. But let's be real, the seeds of betrayal are already in the soil. Boxer's guilt over a maybe dead stable boy shows it. I had no intention of doing that, he says. But no one listens, because war has no space for ethics. It just needs loyalty. This is the moment when the cracks appear. The dream was supposed to be about freedom, right? But already you can smell the rot. The pigs are in charge. The workers are overworked. The enemy has changed uniforms but not tactics. And worst of all, the animals are starting to forget why they rebelled in the first place. That's the danger of utopia. It only exists in the minds of those not holding the leash. You think the United Nations is going to stop the next conflict? You think a ceasefire in Gaza or a nuclear deal with Iran or peace talks in Saudi Arabia will hold because some man in a suit shook hands and smiled for the camera? Orwell's trying to tell you the game was rigged from the start. The minute someone claims to be the voice of the people, check their mouth for fangs. Key takeaway: even the most beautiful dreams decay when power is centralized and unquestioned. Utopia isn't real. It's a holding pattern for the next regime to screw you harder with a cleaner smile. Favorite quote: the pigs did not actually work, but directed and supervised the others. With their superior knowledge, it was natural that they should assume the leadership. Blood and betrayal. Power doesn't corrupt. It just reveals who was always a bastard to begin with. By now, the animals on the farm are tasting the full flavor of betrayal, and spoiler alert, it's not organic. What started as a rebellion has quietly mutated into a corporate hostile takeover, and the board of directors is just a pack of pigs playing human cosplay. Snowball, the idea man, the pig with vision, the one who actually fought in the revolution, he's out, exiled like yesterday's hashtag. And how? Through a military coup staged by Napoleon and his freshly trained squad of bite first ask never dogs. It's the kind of purge that makes Stalin's 1930s look like an HR complaint. Snowball's greatest sin? Believing that the revolution still had rules, that the farm was for the animals, not the ego of one swine with an appetite for dictatorship. Sound familiar? Just look at Iran and Israel. One wrong speech, one unpopular stance, and suddenly your name's scrubbed from history. You don't just lose your seat at the table, you vanish into the shadows, erased, rewritten, replaced. Like Snowball, who was literally edited out of war hero status. First he was the champion of Animal Farm, then a traitor, a ghost. Proof that if you don't control the narrative, someone else will write you out of it. Back on the farm, Napoleon is tightening his grip with religious level zealotry. He cancels the Sunday debates, the last flicker of democracy, and does it under the same excuse tyrants always use. You might make the wrong decision. Translation: I'm smarter, shut up. That's the same logic the US government uses when it redacts half a peace treaty and calls it national security. That's how Russia censors dissent. That's how North Korea exists. Let the sheep bleat slogans and keep everyone else too hungry, too scared, or too distracted to rebel. And the sheep? Oh, they're thriving, not because they're well fed, because they're useful idiots. 4 legs good, two legs bad, is repeated so often you'd think it was written by a social media algorithm. That's the tragedy. People don't need facts anymore, just volume and repetition. That's how misinformation wins. That's how control is maintained. That's how the pigs start walking upright while everyone else is still crawling. Then comes the windmill, a symbol of hope. Try distraction. Napoleon steals Snowball's blueprint and sells it to the masses like it was his idea all along. The animals work their hooves to the bone, blood, sweat, frostbite, and when the damn thing collapses, who gets blamed? You guessed it, Snowball. The guy's not even on the farm anymore and still takes more heat than a UN ambassador during sanctions week. That's the genius of totalitarian propaganda. They don't just control what you believe, they control who you blame. Like Israel blaming Iran for every missile before the dust settles, or Ukraine blamed for the war they didn't start. Orwell didn't write fiction. He wrote a manual. The moment you let your leader declare the enemy within, brace yourself. There's a purge coming. Boxer, ever the true believer, doubles down. I will work harder. Man, that line should be stamped on every underpaid essential worker's uniform. He gets hurt. He gets lied to, but he keeps grinding because loyalty has been weaponized against him. Just like millions around the world who keep trusting corrupt systems, hoping they'll be seen, heard, respected. They won't be, because pigs don't share power, they just share blame. And let's not forget the external threats. Neighboring farms, once horrified by Animal Farm, now just want to manipulate or destroy it. Just like how Pakistan and India play Cold War roulette, or how the West cheers for Ukraine but won't send jets. When things get shaky, everyone pretends to be your ally until they smell weakness. And then, your lunch. So what's left? The animals are working harder than ever. The pigs are living larger than ever. And the dream? It's gone, replaced by surveillance, slogans, silence. It's a familiar tune, sung in every factory, every battlefield, every dying democracy that once thought we, the people, meant something. Key takeaway: when ideals become tools of manipulation and loyalty is turned into a leash, revolutions die not with a bang, but with paperwork, propaganda, and polite applause. Favorite quote: Napoleon is always right. Fear builds empires. Let's not sugarcoat it. Things have gone full psycho on the farm. There's no more pretending that this is about freedom or equality or even survival. No, what's happening now is something darker, something every power structure in history has eventually resorted to: terror. Not just fear, but a systematic, industrial-scale architecture of fear, cemented with paranoia, purges, and propaganda. And if you're reading this while watching missiles fly over Tel Aviv or scrolling headlines about yet another round of civilian carnage in Ukraine, this should hit like a hammer to the soul. Here's the unspoken truth. Every regime knows. Fear works. Better than loyalty. Better than ideology. Better than hope. You don't need buy-in from the masses when their greatest concern is staying out of the mass grave. Napoleon isn't leading anymore. He's ruling. Absolute obedience has replaced collective decision-making, and Snowball, once the other half of the revolutionary brain trust, has been reduced to a ghost story with teeth. He's the Emmanuel Goldstein of this animal gulag. Everything that goes wrong, bad crops, broken tools, missing eggs, is blamed on him. Sound familiar? Replace Snowball with foreign agents, Western media, or traitors, and you've got a playbook echoed in Tehran, Moscow, and Pyongyang. But we're not done spiraling yet. No, the real flex comes when Napoleon unleashes the dogs. Literally. The puppies he raised in secret, they're now full-grown killing machines. The purge that follows is a masterstroke in psychological warfare. Animals confessing to crimes they didn't commit, squealing for mercy that doesn't exist, and being executed on the spot. And the rest? They just watch, shaking, silent, because silence is the new virtue. Sound familiar again? Welcome to the Iranian morality police, the Russian FSB, the Israeli Gaza ghost towns, the lynch mobs hiding under flags in too many broken states to name. Orwell doesn't just depict fear, he autopsies it. He shows how terror becomes not just a tool, but the mortar holding the whole corrupt edifice together. The animals once sang songs of revolution. Now, They don't even speak unless they're sure it's safe. The very anthem of the farm, Beasts of England, is banned, replaced not with silence, but with hollow state-sponsored praise for Comrade Napoleon. Mandatory parades, processions, slogans, long live Comrade Napoleon, as if the more they shout, the less their stomachs will ache. And this isn't just some literary metaphor. Right now, as Israel launches Operation Rising Lion, killing dozens in Iranian nuclear facilities, and Iran retaliates with ballistic fury, civilians cower and leaders spin rhetoric while nations spiral further into ideological madness. In India, silence isn't peace, it's tension wrapped in nationalism. And America? Still trying to play farmer on a barnyard that doesn't want to be managed anymore. Back to the farm. The windmill, once the dream of prosperity, is now rebuilt, not as a beacon of progress but as a distraction, a hamster wheel, something to keep the animals busy while their rights, food and comrades disappear. If the windmill collapses again, it won't be because of poor engineering, it will be sabotage, surely from Snowball or some other invisible enemy, because when you rule by fear, truth is the first casualty, and facts don't matter, only enemies. And the animals, they endure. Boxer, the equine saint, doubles down on his suicidal loyalty. I will work harder, now joined with Napoleon is always right. If there was ever a blueprint for authoritarian control, that's it. Break their backs, then rent their minds. Key takeaway, fear doesn't just build empires, it keeps them standing long after the people inside have collapsed. Fear is the most reliable currency of tyranny. More addictive than power, more effective than propaganda. It doesn't matter if the windmill falls or stands tall. It doesn't matter if animals drop dead from exhaustion or betrayal. As long as they're too afraid to fight back, the regime endures. Favorite quote, "Bravery is not enough," said Squealer. "Loyalty and obedience are more important." Key idea, terror sustains tyranny when ideals fail. Once fear enters the bloodstream of society, freedom is not overthrown, it's forgotten. The mirror of power. They didn't just sell the hero, they sold the myth, burned the gospel, rewrote the commandments, and held the auction inside your head. This isn't a fall from grace, it's a full-on swan dive into the mud pit of moral decay. What starts as a betrayal ends with a mirror, and the thing staring back looks nothing like revolution. It looks like you, it looks like me, it looks like power wearing your face, speaking your words, and bleeding your cause. At first glance, the pigs seem to have reached their final form, a corporate elite class with no board of ethics and a full stomach of excuses. Boxer, the real engine of Animal Farm's delusional dream, breaks down, not in metaphor, but literally. Worked until his heart gives out, he's then wheeled away, not to a warm bed, but to a glue factory. Yes, the beast whose motto was, "I will work harder," gets turned into industrial adhesive. And the pigs? They toast to his memory while sipping whiskey bought with his bones. Don't mistake this as literary exaggeration. It's not hyperbole when it's history, and history repeats louder each time. Look to Gaza, where ceasefires are nothing more than intermissions in the blood opera. Look at Ukraine, a nation caught between Eastern fists and Western deals. Now tell me again that Boxer died in vain, because everywhere the boxers of the world carry burdens not theirs, march under banners they don't control, and are sacrificed to systems they don't understand. Loyalty? That's the ultimate weapon of tyrants. Napoleon knows it too. He doesn't govern, he scripts obedience and calls it leadership. With Orwell's chilling precision, we watch the slow erasure of commandments, first physically, then philosophically. All animals are equal, once carved in truth, is silently revised into the infamous, but some animals are more equal than others. There it is, the manifesto of every regime hiding behind hollow slogans, from Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Kiev to Karachi. What's genius about Orwell is not that he predicted totalitarianism, it's that he knew how it would sell itself. It never shouts, "I'm the villain." It whispers, "I'm your savior." Which is why, when the pigs start walking on two legs and trading with humans, no one stops them. Why? Because by then, the animals can't even remember life before the lies. They're too tired, too broken, too indoctrinated to resist. That's not just a farm story, that's a world headline. When the pigs dine with the humans and the animals peer through the window, something shifts. The faces blur. Pig or man, dictator or democrat, it doesn't matter. The uniform has changed, but the power game hasn't. Whether it's Moscow or Manhattan, the same old puppeteers trade ethics for empire, swap flags for funds, and clap hands across bloodstained tables. You might be tempted to pity the animals. Don't. Pity never saved a soul. Learn instead. Remember that dreams built without vigilance become prisons. Rebellions without memory become loops. When truth becomes too painful, people rewrite it. They bury it. They call it progress. But the bones are still there. Boxers' bones, your bones, the bones of every comrade discarded in the name of efficiency, productivity, unity. And while Orwell's final image is of animals unable to tell pig from man, we're left with one question. Would we even care if we could? Because maybe the final betrayal isn't Napoleon turning into Jones. It's the rest of us watching, nodding, and calling it evolution. Key takeaway: power doesn't just corrupt, it erases. It edits memory, rewrites reality, and convinces you that slavery is freedom. And once truth is a moving target, loyalty is just ammunition. Favorite quote: the creatures outside looked from pig to man, and from man to pig, and from pig to man again, but already it was impossible to say which was which. Conclusion. So, after all that blood, betrayal, and backroom brandy with the enemy, what's the final lesson? Animal Farm doesn't end in victory. It ends in the greatest horror of all, acceptance. Not because the animals won, but because they forgot they lost. Because when the system breaks you just enough, you stop dreaming, you stop asking, you survive instead of live, you clap while you choke. And maybe that's the scariest thing Orwell ever gave us. Not the pigs, not the purges, not the rewritten commandments. It's the mirror. Because by the end of this book, you're not watching animals anymore. You're watching us. This story isn't about the past. It's not a fairy tale. It's the news cycle on shuffle. We are watching Gaza and Tel Aviv trade death like poker chips. Watching Ukraine bleed while politicians host peace talks that feed no one. Watching Iran and Israel fire missiles that kill children so men in suits can posture on TV. And meanwhile, average people, regular people on both sides suffer, not because they chose war, but because someone else did and the rest of us let them. You can wave any flag you want, but the grave doesn't care what language you speak. In the end, we're not divided by race, religion, or borders. We're divided by manipulation. And Orwell's warning wasn't subtle. If you let someone else define truth, you'll forget how to see. So buy this book, seriously. Go read it yourself. Not for a class, not for a quiz, not for a YouTube summary. Buy it, mark it, rip it apart, and make sure you never become one of the animals cheering as the pigs walk on two legs. Because if we're not careful, we'll all end up back at the table, drinking to the very bastards who built the fence. If this punched you in the gut even once, good. You're alive. Now do something with it. Share this with someone still sleeping. Comment below what part of the book hit hardest for you. And yeah, hit subscribe, because if you think this was intense, wait till you see what's next. We're not here to play nice. We're here to burn the lies down and build something real. And most of all, remember Gaza. Remember Ukraine. Remember Russia, Iran, Israel, Pakistan, India. Don't forget that behind every missile is a mother. Behind every trench is a kid who wanted to play football, not dodge drones. War is not the will of the people. It's the decision of power. So don't pick a side in a politician's war. Pick a side in humanity. We're all we've got. See you in the next one.